We were talking earlier this morning to Sam Altman about Elon Musk. Elon Musk's relationship with the president, interestingly, and there's been a lot of questions about whether there could be the possibility that Elon, given his proximity, would make things difficult for people who are his competitors. Elon, in the space context, is your biggest competitor.
Yes.
Does this concern you?
Well, they're certainly very able competitors. I mean, this is an arena where I have the...
Oh, no. I know he's a great competitor. No, I'm saying, does it concern you, his proximity?
No, I was headed there.
Oh,
but I'm just saying they're certainly very good competitors. And, no doubt about that. I take at face value what has been said, which is that, he is not going to use his political power to advantage his own companies or to disadvantage his competitors. I take that at face value. I could be wrong about that, but I think it could be true. I think he probably is trying to, I think this Department of Government Efficiency and that he and Vivek are helping Trump with and so on. Again, I've had a lot of success in life not being cynical. And I've very rarely been taken advantage of as a result. It's happened a couple of times, but not very often. And I think that cynicism, why be cynical about that? Let's go into it hoping that the statements that have been made are correct, that this is going to be done, above board in the public interest. And if that turns out to be naive, well, then we'll see. But I actually think it's going to be great. I'm hoping.
You've said that the reason we've got to go to space, in my view, is to save Earth. Is that come from being up there and looking at that?
Yeah.
Or was that something you were thinking about?
For whatever reason, since I'm a teenager, and in fact, there's a high school newspaper article, my Miami Palmetto Senior High, they wrote an article about my space plans, which I would tell everyone who would stand still long enough about. And those plans included what I am still working on, which is moving all polluting industry off Earth. And so my view, but I know that sounds fantastical. So I beg the indulgence of this audience to bear with me for a moment, but it's not fantastical. This is going to happen, and we need to lower the cost of access to space low enough, and that's what New Glenn, our orbital vehicle, is all about. That's the big super heavy launch vehicle that's now, it's literally on the pad now waiting for regulatory approval. It needs its final regulatory approvals to launch. So we're very, very close. And if we can lower the costs enough, and we will, I mean, it may take, who knows how many years it will take, but we can set up the preconditions where the next generation or the generation after that will be able to move polluting industry off Earth. And then this planet will be maintained as it should be, and can kind of be, you can sort of think of it as zoned residential and light industry. And if you want to use large amounts of energy and large amounts of pollutants and so on, you go do that off Earth. And so we get the best of both. We get to have this energy-intensive civilization and use ever more energy per capita and get all the benefits that we get from that, which are many, by the way. You don't want to go back in time. And it's really important to think about, when people talk about the good old days, that is such an illusion. That almost everything is better today than it was. Infant mortality is better. Global illiteracy is better. Global poverty is far better. Things really are better today. There's one exception to that.
Which is?
The natural world. The natural world, if you go back in time 500 years, we had pristine oceans, pristine rivers, pristine forests, and that is, that's part of the trade we've made, is we're kind of, we're using up the natural world here. But space has infinite, for all practical purposes, infinite energy, infinite raw materials.
So it's a very interesting philosophical choice, because one of the things you're talking about trying to save the Earth, and I was going to say that a number of other people, including I think Musk and others, say that we need an escape hatch from Earth, right? We need to all move to Mars because Earth is not going to be saved. Do you see that?
No, we have to save. So first of all, there is no plan B. We have to save Earth. So we've sent robotic probes to all of the planets in this solar system. This is the good one. And we must save it. We cannot look. We can choose how we want to live. It is not impossible if you think about climate change and so on. Some of the issues that we face here because of the way we're doing things currently. You could imagine a world with enough technological sophistication where we can turn Earth into sort of a giant spaceship, like air conditioned.
It's fantastical. No, I know.
But I'm saying air conditioned planet, and kind of pave the whole thing and turn it. That's a bad future. We don't need to do that. That turning Earth into, take the whole thing and turning it into a human construct and destroying this natural ecosystem when it's so unique and such a gem, that's not the right way to do it. So we should move all that off Earth. And we will, because we won't do it the wrong way. And you know why we won't? Because humans value beauty and art. There's a very strong argument to be made that the moon is a good stepping stone to the rest of the solar system. And the reason for that, because the moon has a much lower gravity level than the Earth, and because it has a lot of very important minerals, and also water in the form of ice in the permanently shadowed craters at the poles of the moon. And ice can be converted, water can be converted into hydrogen and oxygen, which happen to be the very best, highest performing rocket propellants. And so you can, it takes, to raise a kilogram of mass from the Earth takes 28 times as much energy as raising that same kilogram from the moon. So to the degree that you can get raw materials from the moon, which, again, we're talking about a couple of generations in the future, but to the degree that you can get raw materials from the moon instead of from Earth, those materials will allow you to build spaceships and to fuel those spaceships and to build solar arrays and all these other things that you want to do, but using lunar resources instead of Earth resources. And then it would provide a very convenient stepping stone to the rest of the solar system.
Dave Limp, who we just hired to run Blue Origin for you as the CEO, said apparently when he was interviewing with you, he said, Jeff, is Blue Origin a hobby or a business?
Yeah.
What did you tell him?
It's a business. It's not a very good business yet.
How big a business can it be?
We're investing. No, look, I think it's going to be, from a business point of view, from a financial returns point of view, I think it's going to be the best business that I've ever been involved in. But it's going to take a while.
So bigger than Amazon?
Yeah.
So let me ask you a different question, which is, I remember just being down there, the scale of everything. I wish you could all just go and see it is so remarkable. You sort of look at the scale, and you can't even understand what is happening around you. It's sort of so hard to fathom just the size of it all. And it made me think about confidence. We were actually talking to Serena Williams earlier today about confidence. And I was thinking to myself,
it's easy for her. She just has to be the best in the world.
Well, but this is going to go to you too, which is, when you started Amazon, that was a business that had to scale, and you had to see the scale to work. I remember for years I was covering it. I would be writing about when you were losing money left, right, and center. Everyone thought this whole thing was crazy, and
we lost money for 11 years.
The scale of it, people think I thought it was insane.
Yes.
And if you go down to Florida, to Cape Canaveral, and you see the scale of this thing, you say, my God, this is insane.
Tom Brokaw interviewed me one time about Amazon's losses, and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Bezos, can you even spell profit? And I said, yes, P-R-O-P-H-E-T. I'm actually very optimistic this time around that we're going to see. I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him. Because we do have too much regulation in this country. This country is so set up to grow. By the way, all of our problems, all of our economic problems, like if you look at the deficit and, the debt, the national debt, and how gigantic it is as a portion of GDP. These are real problems, and they're real long-term problems. And the way you get out of them is by outgrowing them. You're going to solve the problem of the national debt by making it a smaller percentage of GDP, not by shrinking the national debt, but by growing the GDP. You have to grow the denominator. And that means you have to grow GDP at, 3, 4, 5% a year, and, let the national debt grow slower than that. If you can do that, this is a very manageable problem. So we need a growth orientation in this country. This is the most important thing, a growth mindset. And we are the luckiest country in the world. We have all these natural resources, including energy independence. We have the best risk capital system in the world by far. So, people get confused about why does the United States have so much venture success, so much entrepreneurial success? Why are the big tech companies here and not somewhere else? What's really going on with all this dynamism in this country compared to what we see around elsewhere in the world? Right. And there are a bunch of reasons for that, but the biggest one, 8 of 10 points there, is that we have better risk capital. So it's not the banking system. We have a good banking system, but so does Europe. Right. What's different here is that you can raise $50 million of seed capital to do something that only has a 10% chance of working. That's crazy. But the people who are giving you that seed capital know that their expected value is still positive in many cases, or they're at least gambling that that's true. That risk capital system that we have in this country is turning out to be very hard for other countries to duplicate. So we have that. We have, we speak English, and English is turning into the lingua franca of the whole world. It's there's so many advantages here, but we are burdened by excessive permitting and regulation. You can't build a bridge and all these things. You know what they are. We see these examples all the time. We need to be able to build solar fields and everything else.
But so you're optimistic.
I'm super optimistic
about this president. And the reason I ask is because
I'm very optimistic that President Trump is serious about this regulatory agenda, right. And I think he has a good chance of succeeding.
What about the idea that he thinks that the press is the enemy?
Well, I think I'm going to try to talk him out of that idea. I don't think the press is the enemy. And I don't think, he's also, you've probably grown in the last 8 years. He has too. This is not the case. The press is not the enemy.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right too.
Have you talked?
But let's go persuade him of this. No, let's.
Have you talked to him about it?
But you and I should go. Let's go talk to him.
If we could try.
I really don't. I think that this is absolutely. I don't think he's going to see it the same way. But maybe I'll be wrong.
Was that always your thought, by the way?
What I've seen so far is that he is calmer than he was the first time and more confident, more settled.
How much do you see XAI as a competitor? We talk about Google, obviously, all the time. And we talk about Anthropic and, to some degree, Microsoft. And I don't know where you think Amazon is. We'll talk to Jeff Bezos this afternoon. But how do you see that?
They're a competitor.
Do you think of them as one of your biggest competitors? I mean, it appears that they are coming on super strong.
Yeah, I assume they'll be a really serious competitor.
Did you expect that?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
And what are they doing? And what are they doing, and how have they been able to literally spin up a company that feels, I'm not claiming it's comparable to what you're doing, but getting super close, super fast? Meaning, what is that?
Well, a lot of the models at the frontier are all pretty close now. But certainly tremendous respect for how quickly they built that data center.
Is that, by the way, do you fear that all this becomes commoditized as a result? I mean, if it seems like, I'm not saying anybody can do it, but it just seems like, what is your advantage? And by the way, what is your disadvantage?
I think the technology itself, to the degree you believe deep learning is just sort of like a law of physics, and that we discovered an important new piece of science, then yes, that part will be done by lots of people. Everybody has their analogy for what AI is like. I saw Sundar is going to be here. He talks about it like electricity. Mm-hmm. A whole bunch of others. People talk about the Industrial Revolution. Some people talk about the Renaissance. The one I like is the transistor. There was a scientific discovery that a few companies discovered first that transformed our society, that scaled unbelievably well. When people talk about scaling laws, the best analogy for that, I think, is Moore's Law. And that came to be used by a lot of companies in all of the world. Look at all the things in this room with transistors. But we don't think about that as a transistor device, and we don't think about Google as a transistor company, even though they wouldn't be here without one. And I kind of think that's what's going to happen with AI. There will be shockingly capable models widely available, used for everything. And it will be inconceivable to people in the future that the devices, the products and services they use are not really smart. And they won't all call themselves AI companies or AI products. And in that sense, in some sense, the AI itself, the kind of the reasoning engine nature of it will become commoditized. And that's fine, that's good. Like science should be just diffused throughout society. And that's why we're focused on building things like ChatGPT.
I was really surprised to hear Jeff Bezos talk so positively about Elon Musk, and this is certainly great for Elon Musk and Elon Musk's company, but also for Jeff Bezos, because to admit this, it takes a lot of courage, and the exchanges between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos before have not exactly always been friendly, so I really respect Jeff Bezos for pointing out what he actually thinks instead of pretending that Elon Musk is going to do something bad when he actually thinks he will not. So a big shout out goes to Jeff Bezos.